Yes, ladies and gentlemen, good morning from Jakarta. In the spirit of ASEAN states members to enrich and have a better understanding in the concept of civil service compensations and benefit strategy from Australia and China, today we virtually gathered for the seminar on civil service compensations and benefits strategy. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Eka Situmorang and I am delightful to welcome you on seminar on civil service compensations and benefit strategy organized by NCSA Indonesia. This seminar is also broadcasted live through NCSA YouTube channel as well as in the Zoom. We shall take this session to develop an ideal concept model of civil service compensations and benefit strategy by learning best practices from Australia and China, as well as to overcome challenges in implementing the idea. The seminar will be held for 4 hours from 9 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. Jakarta time with a discussion and question and answer session as well. Before we start, I would like to greet our participants. The first one, I would like to greet Brunei Darussalam. Good morning, Miss Mahara Osman and Mr. Hazira Ismail. I give you a little bit pantun ya. Pigi ke Muara naik kapal selam. Assalamualaikum Brunei Darussalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello from Brunei.
Hello. Thank you. The second one, I would like to greet Cambodia.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sao Sedai,
សួស្តី
Sok Sabai.
ចាសុខសប្បាយអរគុណច្រើន My name is Tang Minchu from Ministry of Civil Service of Cambodia.
Thank you. I miss Cambodia with the hot weather and all the Angkor, everything. It's so wonderful over there. Thank you. The third one, this is the host. I would like to greet central and local institutions from all over Indonesia. Is it possible to unmute them? Selamat pagi Bapak Ibu pemerintah pusat dan daerah di seluruh Indonesia. Mana suaranya Bapak Ibu? Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi.
Baik, saya kasih satu pantun ya Pak. Jalan-jalan ke Jakarta, tidak lupa pergi belanja. Selamat pagi Indonesia, ayo kita berkinerja. Baik, terima kasih. The next one I would like to say good morning to Lao PDR.
Can you hear me? Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Sabaidi.
Sabaydi. My name is Petsamon Sanyalat from Ministry of Home Affairs, Laos. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And next, our lovely neighbor, Malaysia.
Hi, good morning. I'm Sharon from the Public Service Department, Malaysia.
Good morning. I've been giving lots of pantun, but this one is also for you because I miss that city so much. Pergi jalan ke Cyberjaya, tak lupa pakai kebaya. Pagi ini kita bersua, tuai ilmu bersama-sama.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Cyberjaya is the twin city of Putrajaya, correct? Yeah.
Thank you so much for the pantun.
Thank you. I would like you to reply me later also.
Yeah, sure. I have a few other colleagues with me today. I allow them to introduce themselves, please.
Okay.
Hi, good morning. I'm Shafiq from Public Service Department. Can I reply to your pantun?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Okay. Pagi yang indah cinta bersemi, sinar mentari mula memancar. Terima kasih menjemput kami. Semoga seminar berjalan lancar.
Wonderful, impressive, bringing the cinta as well. Thank you so much. Okay, you have been prepared. Next, I would like to invite Myanmar. I would like to address our fellow ACCSM members from Myanmar.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, Minggal Labar. Nicola. I think it's a poor connections over there. But good morning for our fellow ACCSM members from Myanmar. And then Philippines. Mabuhay.
Hi.
Good morning. Thank you. Is our fellow ACCSM member from Singapore have arrived too? From Thailand? Oh, okay. This is from Singapore, Mr. Hong Quan. Good morning. Is the Merlion statue still standing still? I hope you are well, yeah. Okay, and then from Thailand.
Hi, greeting from Thailand.
Hello, สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ
ยินดีที่รู้จัก and ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you.
Thank you. And the 10th member of ACCSM Vietnam. Hello, xin chào.
Xin chào.
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you. And this is the first time coming to our seminar. I'd like to greet from Timor-Leste.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Dader Diak. Can you hear us?
Yes. Loud and clear, Madam. Selamat pagi, apa kabar Dili?
Selamat pagi, kabarnya baik. Dili kabarnya baik. Apa kabar Ibu sendiri?
Puji Tuhan, kabar saya baik juga. Thank you so much. I would like also to greet our 3+ countries who have been working closely with ACCSM programs. The first one is from China.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon, colleagues.
Good morning. Correct me if I'm wrong. Xia Sheng Hao?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We are happy to have you here. And then I would
you.
like to greet from Japan.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Ohayo gozaimasu.
Ohayo gozaimasu.
Happy to have you here. And the last of the +3 countries from Korea. And last but not least, I'd like to greet the ASEAN Secretariat. Mr. Alvin Pahlavi. Good morning, sir. Thank you. Maybe there is a connection trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still at a wait for the rest of ASEAN members to join us. In the meantime, enjoy the video we have prepared for you.
Bagimu negeri jiwa raga
Indonesia is the most beautiful land in the universe. The land where we were born, the nation where we grew up. So many colors that live together in peace. With a million timeless treasures. With an abundance of natural wealth. Indonesia is not just wonderful. Indonesia is a wonderland.
Kota baru gunungnya berbeda, berbeda mana pun di Sangkara, mana pun di Sangkara. Katamu lawanlah adinda, adinda iman tidak ada rasa malaya, iman tidak ada rasa malaya. Sayang sifat tokaan makai go gorokan sayang sifat tokaan makai go gorokan sayang sajojo you madam ko bisa papare sa muna keke sa muna keke soleram anak yang manis janganlah dicium sayang kalau dicium merah pipinya kampungan jauh di mata kunwangsan sebaku miliang takkan aja kawan lamu sangke basur yang suria
bangsa Indonesia dengan ini menyatakan kemerdekaan Indonesia. Hal-hal yang mengenai pemindahan kekuasaan dan lain-lain diselenggarakan dengan cara yang sama dan dalam tempo yang sesingkat-singkatnya. Jakarta, 17 Agustus 1945, atas nama bangsa Indonesia, Soekarno Hatta.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we are about to begin, I would like to announce a few housekeeping stuff and seek your cooperation in completing this program. Kindly change your name to country pipeline name. This will allow us to identify you better. Please ensure that the microphone is muted to minimize the noise and echo sound during the seminar. All participants are kindly encouraged to turn on your video throughout the meeting for better interpersonal interaction during the sessions. All attendees are kindly requested to use virtual background that could be accessed on the chat box. Should participants wish to intervene, please inform the host through the chat box or use the raise hand button. The ACCSM Indonesia will record the seminar for report purposes, and it will be an internal archive of the ACCSM Indonesia. Attendants are invited to submit the questions using the Slido. The link will be provided in the chat box. To get a certificate, participants should fulfill the survey. The link will be provided before the end of the sessions. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Seminar on Civil Service Compensations and Benefits Strategy. It is a great honor to be welcoming and having the presence of ASEAN member states and +2 countries this morning. And now we shall start the program with the playing of Indonesian anthem, Indonesia Raya, followed by ASEAN anthem. Bapak Ibu yang berada di aula, dengan hormat kami undang untuk berdiri, sementara Bapak Ibu yang mengikuti melalui Zoom agar dapat menyesuaikan diri. Hadirin dipersilakan duduk kembali. Moving on to our next agenda is prayer recitation. I would like to invite Mr. Syahril to recite the prayer.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Before starting this program, I cordially would like to invite you to bow your head for a moment and pray to God, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. May He always bless us and our program could be precious to all of us. I will lead this prayer based on the teaching of Islam. And for those who are non-Muslims, you are pleased to pray according to each of your beliefs. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hamdan syakirin, hamdan na'imin, hamdan yu'afi ni'mahu wa yukafi mazidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi lil jalali wajhikal karim wa azimi sultanik. Oh Allah, in this beautiful place, we gather here to bring about a seminar on managing civil service compensation and benefit strategy. Make this seminar a functional science assembly as a medium for sharing valuable ideas, knowledge, and experiences. May the meeting we organize today benefit our lives, broaden our understanding, shine our thoughts, and lead us to be successful, productive persons which will boost our nation's dignity. O Allah, guide and bless our hearts and our minds with the light of your guidance. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities. Speak our minds clearly. Allow us to listen to each other, respect each other, and love each other, so that we are included to the blessed persons. O Allah, protect us from unintended temptation, show us the right path, give us knowledge and strength to perform good things equally. Show us and make clear the wrong things, and provide us with knowledge and power to avoid them. O Allah, you are the one who can fulfill our dua. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our first agenda is the committee's report from the Director of Civil Service Compensations of NCSA. I take the privilege to invite Mrs. Neni Rohiani, the Director on Civil Service Compensations of NCSA, to deliver the committee's report. Mrs. Neni, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Eka. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. Distinguished Chairman and Prime Secretary of the National Civil Service Agency, Speaker from the Australian Public Service Commission and Chinese Academy of Personal Science, ACCSM +3 participants, ASEAN Secretariats, participants from NCSA, ministries, agencies, and local government Indonesia, and then ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to welcome you to seminar on managing civil service compensation and benefits strategy today. This seminar is hosted by ACCSM Indonesia as the third Indonesia activity in 2023. Under ACCSM Work Plan 2021-2025. One of the aims of the ASEAN Cooperation on Civil Service Matters of ACCSM is to strengthen the collaboration among ASEAN member states or AMS, especially in cooperation on civil service management. This seminar is also a part of enhancing regional cooperation for a high-performing and dynamic civil service to achieve the ASEAN Vision 2025, which is aimed to a community that is politically cohesive, economically integrated, socially responsible, and genuinely rules-based, people-oriented, and people-centered. The member states deem that civil service collaboration is essential to close the gap with the ASEAN member states and positively impact the growth of the ASEAN community. Since its beginnings, ACCSM has remained of a platform for fostering closer ties, facilitate collaboration and exchanging information, innovation, and best practice in civil service management and development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this particular moment, we are honored to have two prominent speakers, Mr. Harrison Miller from Australian Public Service Commission, Miss Wang Yi from the Chinese Academy of Personal Science. Their presentation will be led and facilitated by Mr. Fuad Nur Fitrianto. I expect we all can learn insightful information and knowledge from Australia and China about compensation and benefit strategy. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are also delighted to have 50 delegates from the APT, Brunei Darussalam, Cambodia, Laos PDR, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Timor-Leste, China, Japan, and South Korea. We also have representatives from ASEAN Secretariat. There are 100 officials of several ministries and institutions in Indonesia. We also have participants from Central Office, Regional Office, and Technical Units of NCSA. In total, almost 150 participants have been registered at the moment. We need to confirm participants on the screen and 50 on site at the NCSA Central Office. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to inform you that today seminar on civil service compensation and benefit strategy aim to become best practices and share experiences on compensation and benefit strategy, and then develop a better understanding of various practices that specifically handle compensation and benefit strategy, and then become a sharing media among APTHR officials in compensation and benefit. I sincerely hope that we can still work together, have insightful discussion, and share a great wealth of knowledge, experience, and best practices during the seminar. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, please allow me to express my gratitude to the NCSA senior official, resource person, organizing committee, and all participants who have supported the conduct of these events. I hope this seminar will run smoothly. Furthermore, we kindly ask Prime Secretary of NCSA, Mrs. Ima Sukmaria, to deliver our welcoming speech, and the acting Chairman of the National Civil Service Agency, Mr. Haryomo Dwi Putranto, to convey opening remarks and continue officially open the seminar of civil service compensation and benefit strategy. Thank you, ASEAN Matters Epicentrum of Growth. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Moving on to our next agenda, now I have the honor to kindly invite Mrs. Ima Sukmaria, the Prime Secretary of NCSA, to deliver the welcoming speech. The mic is yours, ma'am.
Thank you, Mrs. Eka. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, distinguished Chairman of National Civil Service Agency, Mr. Haryomo Dwi Putranto, Senior Official of the National Civil Service Agency, speakers from Australian Public Service Commission, APSC, and Chinese Academy of Personnel Science, CAPS, ACCSM +3 and Timor-Leste participants, ASEAN Secretariat, participants from NCSA, ministries, agencies, and local government in Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you to the seminar on managing civil service compensation and benefit strategy. First of all, let me take this moment to thank our speakers, Mr. Harrison Miller from Australian Public Service Commission, APSC, and Ms. Wang Yi from the Chinese Academy of Personal Science, CAPS. I believe the exposure of the speakers would give us insight into the compensation and benefit strategy for civil servants in the public sector in ASEAN +3 countries, including its management. Secondly, I would also like to thank the ACCSM +3, Timor-Leste, and ASEAN Secretariat for participating in this seminar. Let me also deliver my sincere appreciation to the steering and organizing committee for their dedication to conduct this seminar. This is the third year we have been gathering here in a hybrid format to better understand civil service management implementation. The seminar we are currently hosting is the third initiative we have undertaken this year. Ladies and gentlemen, the extensive discussion regarding personal management within government agencies requires the implementation of dynamic management practices. The primary objective of bureaucracy is provide public service, which is a crucial consideration in delivering service to the community as government stakeholders. Due to the diverse range of discussion and the extensive scope and unique characteristic of each ASEAN +3 countries, it is essential to customize the implementation of such practices to suit the specific attributes of each country. The primary objective of the seminar is to facilitate a deeper understanding, a discourse regarding the compensation and benefit strategies currently implemented in Australia and China. It is also hoped that all participants can be engaged in a comprehensive discussion so that FPT can evaluate, if needed, the feasibility of integrating new strategies partially or entirely into their existing compensation and benefit regulation. I really hope that the seminar can also enhance our collaborative effort and ties. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to reaffirm that Indonesia is committed to promote any effort the mutual benefit to FPT, and also we have done our best to support the implementation of the ASEAN Cooperation on Civil Service Matter Work Plan by initiating a range of activities to broaden the understanding of policy implementation among ASEAN civil servants. Last but not least, thank you and our warmest welcome to all esteemed participants for your enthusiasm in the seminar. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, God Almighty, always provide guidance, strength, and ease for us to deal with complexity and uncertainty toward future-proof bureaucracy and improving services for the public. Thank you. ASEAN Matters Epicentrum of Growth. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Kami mohon untuk Ibu Sestama untuk tetap dapat berada di podium. We have heard the opening remarks. Thank you very much, Mrs. Imas. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to memorize this seminar by taking pictures. I would like to invite all of the ladies and gentlemen, Echelon 1 and 2, to go to the podium for the photo sessions. And I invite the online participants, kindly hold the happy face for a few moments as our committees takes a screen cap of you, and I will lead the sessions. Saya juga mengundang Ibu Dewi Sartika dan Bapak Fuad untuk dapat berfoto bersama. Ladies and gentlemen who are in the Zoom, screen 1, say cheese. Screen 2, kindly give us your best smile. Screen 3, say money. Screen 4, yeah. Screen 5, yoga. Screen 6, awesome. Screen 7 until 11. Screen 8. Screen 9. Screen 10. Wow, 12. Screen 11. The last screen, but not least, of course. Screen 12. Say yay. And Bapak Ibu yang berada di ruangan, terima kasih. Kami persilakan untuk dapat kembali ke tempat. Upcoming agenda for our seminar today is the opening remarks. I respectfully invite Mr. Haryomo Dwi Putranto, Acting Chairman of National Civil Service Agency, to deliver the message. The mic is yours, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished senior official of the National Civil Service Agency, speakers from Australian Public Service Commission and Chinese Academy of Personnel Science, ACCSM +3 participants, ASEAN Secretariat, participants from NCSA, ministers, agencies, and local government in Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen. With great pleasure and a sense of profound responsibility, I welcome you all this significant gathering today, a seminar dedicated to the critical topic of managing civil service compensation and benefit strategy. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be a part of this discussion, which hold immense importance in shaping to the future of public administration and civil service management. The civil service, often regarded as the backbone of any nation, plays a pivotal role in the government and development of our societies. The dedicated men and women within the civil service work tirelessly to implement government policies, deliver essential services, and uphold the rule of law. Their contribution is indispensable in ensuring the well-being of our citizens and the functioning of a just and equitable society. At the heart of an efficient and effective civil service lies the question of compensation. Fair and competitive compensation packages not only attract and retain top talent, but also serve as a recognition of the valuable work done by civil servants. It is imperative that we delve into the complex issue today, exploring the various dimensions of civil service compensation, such as its impact on motivation, performance, and overall public sector efficiency. Throughout this seminar, we will be privileged to hear from distinguished experts who will share these insights, experiences, and best practices in civil service compensation from Australia and China. Together, we will explore innovative approaches, successful case studies, and emerging trends that can get us in developing compensation systems that are both equitable and sustainable. As we embark on this journey of knowledge sharing and collaborative learning, I encourage you to actively participate in the discussion, ask probing questions, and engage in contributive dialogue. Your contributions are essential in shaping the outcome of the seminar and ultimately the future of civil service compensation. Last but not least, believe that our collective effort today will not only benefit the civil servant who tirelessly serve our nation, but also contribute to the broader goals of good governance, accountability, and public welfare. Let us work together to explore solutions, challenges existing paradigm, and pave the way for a more just and effective civil service compensation framework. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I'm honored to declare the seminar on managing civil service compensation and benefit strategy officially open. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, good Almighty, always provide us with guidance, strength, and ease. Thank you once again for your presence, and I look forward to an insightful and productive seminar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
We have heard the opening remarks. Thank you very much, Mr. Haryomo. We are now reaching the main sessions, sharing expertise and discussions. Today we are very lucky here. Joining us are the experts from Australia and China. The first one is Mr. Harrison Miller from Australian Public Service Commissions. And the second one is Ms. Wang Yi from Chinese Academy of Personnel Science. They will share their experience in providing pay and remunerations to civil servants. This session will be led by Mr. Fuad Nur Fitrianto. Mr. Fuad is a middle policy analyst at Civil Servant Compensations Directorate, and he also a Flinders alumni from Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, please prepare yourself for the discussion and feel free to explore the topic. Mr. Fuad, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Eka, our gorgeous and beautiful Master of Ceremony, one of the best Master of Ceremony in NCSA, and distinguished Acting Chairman of National Civil Service Agency, Prime Secretary of National Civil Service Agency, and speakers from Australian Public Service Commission and also Chinese Academy of Personnel Science, ACCSM +3, and also Timor-Leste participant, ASEAN Secretariat, participants from National Civil Service Agency, Ministries, Agency, dan juga Bapak Ibu yang bergabung from local governments in Indonesia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to welcome you all, either virtually or physically in this room, to the seminar on managing civil service compensation and benefit strategy. I am Fuad Nur Fitrianto. It is my pleasure to be a moderator in this seminar. In this good occasion, we already have two speakers who are proficient and also expert in the compensation and benefit, and will also share the compensation and benefit from two countries, Australia and China. Let me greet from Indonesia. Greeting from Indonesia to Mr. Harrison Miller in Australia. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you very much. I miss Australia, sir. We'll be back soon. Maybe this seminar will be followed with sponsorship from APSG, hopefully. For the next speakers, we meet Ms. Wang Yi from Chinese Academy of Personnel Science. Good morning. Ni hao ma.
非常好 Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, to this seminar, we will have 30 minutes for Mr. Miller to give presentation, followed by Ms. Wang Yi, 30 minutes, and then after listening from our two magnificent speakers, we will have discussion, question and answer. to deepening understanding about an hour. Before I proceed to our main session, let me introduce briefly of Mr. Harrison Miller and also Ms. Wang Yi. Mr. Harrison Miller, he is the director in the Workplace Relation Bargaining Task Force in the APSG. In his current role, Harrison has responsibility for advising the Australian government on options for providing fair and affordable pay increases to government employees and achieving greater commonality in remuneration between government agencies. Prior to his role as director, Harrison held senior roles in public service remuneration, including his role as the Commonwealth advocate before the Defence Force Remuneration Tribunal. This position required Harrison to represent the Australian government in decisions relating to the remuneration of members of the Australian Defence Force. And a brief introduction for Ms. Wang Yi. Ms. Wang Yi is the Deputy Director and Assistant Research Fellow of Research Division and on International Human Resources and International Cooperation. In this regard, research area include human resource development strategies, talent mobility, and comparative research on the civil service system. Now we come to the main session, the presentation. Mr. Harrison Miller, are you ready to deliver your presentation?
I am. Thank you very much.
Okay, the screen is yours, sir. Please.
Fantastic. Good morning, everyone. As has been mentioned, my name is Harrison Miller, and I'm Director of Workplace Relations in the Australian Public Service Commission. I'd like to start by thanking the Indonesian National Civil Service Agency for extending this invitation to me to present at today's seminar on the topic of managing civil service compensation and benefit strategy. A brief overview, what I want to share today will cover the following topics. So I want to start with the legislative framework which governs employee pay and conditions in Australia. I then want to progress to remuneration in the Australian public service, specifically salaries, allowances, bonuses, and pay equity. I'll cover non-monetary benefits in the Australian public service, employee work health and safety, and then also institutional public service awards for employees. If there are any questions, I look forward to answering those during the Q&A session after the presentation. So to start with, it's important to know that employees in the Australian public service are employed under a piece of government legislation called the Public Service Act 1999. And that piece of legislation provides the legal framework for fair and effective employment and management and leadership of APS employees. So it establishes the Australian Public Service and it provides rules which all public servants are bound by. Currently, there are around 159,000 Australian public service employees, and those employees work in 100 different agencies or departments. What I also have on this slide here is the proportion of employees by their classification. And these classifications represent the responsibility or hierarchy of the Australian Public Service. Generally, those classifications range from trainee right through to senior executive classifications. I want to speak about the classifications a bit more later on, but for now, it's important to understand that at the left, are the more junior employees, and on the right are the more senior classifications. And you can see that most employees sit in the middle, but perhaps with a bit of a tend towards the right-hand side, with lots of senior officers providing policy guidance and advice. Now, I mentioned that we've got 159,000 employees, and they're employed in 100 different agencies, and each agency has different responsibility for an area of public administration. Each of those agencies has their own employment arrangements, and they provide different pay and non-monetary benefits like leave. I'll come back to those arrangements, but it's important to understand 160,000 employees in 100 different agencies with different benefits for each of them. Now, before I speak specifically about the APS, I wanted to briefly explain the federal legislation in Australia about pay and conditions for all employees. So we have a bit of a layered approach in Australia. And the first layer is a piece of legislation, and it's called the National Employment Standards. The National Employment Standards set out minimum employee entitlements which must be provided to all employees. An important part of the National Employment Standards is a minimum wage. And currently, the minimum wage in Australia is $23.23 per hour. So any employee in Australia must be paid at least $23 an hour. The National Employment Standards also provide minimum leave entitlements for annual leave or personal and sick leave. You can see on the slide here that the National Employment Standards is the baseline, and other conditions are applied on top of that baseline. So the next layer there is called an award. And an award builds on the National Employment Standards. Because the National Employment Standards only have 11 components, there are many things that they don't cover. And so the award provides a minimum baseline on those other matters which are not covered in the award. The awards are often industry or occupation based. So you might have an award for truck drivers, or an award for retail workers, or an award for construction workers, administrative clerks. Currently, there are 121 different awards in Australia which have industry or occupation specific minimum entitlements. And those awards provide minimum hourly rates which are equal to or exceed the national minimum wage. The awards are administered by an Australian government body which is called the Fair Work Commission. The Fair Work Commission is an independent tribunal, and they adjust the minimum pay rates in the awards each year. So each year, the panel of the Fair Work Commission gets together, they consider lots of data, and then they provide pay increases to the award. And typically, those increases have been in the range of about 2 to 3% each year. And then employers need to ensure that they're providing at least that salary to their employees. Sitting above the modern awards, there's a framework for collective workplace arrangements or individual workplace arrangements. And that third layer is often called enterprise agreements. And that's what I want to speak to now. So employers and employees in Australia oftentimes come together and negotiate for an enterprise agreement. An enterprise agreement is a contract or a document that sets out the terms and conditions that will apply to a particular workforce in a particular organisation. And the pay and conditions of that enterprise agreement need to be negotiated between the employer and the employee. The conditions in an enterprise agreement provide additional conditions above the legal minimums provided by the award. So the award might say you need to earn at least $23 an hour, but an enterprise agreement might increase that to $30 an hour. Or the award might say you need at least 10 days of personal leave, but an enterprise agreement might increase that to 14 days. And so employees are better off in these contracts that they negotiate with their employers. And then once an enterprise agreement has been agreed between employer and employees, it locks in the pay and conditions for up to a 4-year period. And during that period, the conditions cannot be changed. Once that period expires, the employer and employees renegotiate the conditions for another enterprise agreement, oftentimes for a 3 to 4 year period. The process of negotiating enterprise agreements is referred to as bargaining. And at the end of bargaining, the proposed contract, the proposed agreement, needs to be put to a vote of all employees, and a majority of employees need to vote yes to support the contract. Otherwise, it will be rejected and they have to keep bargaining until they can reach agreement. The Fair Work Commission that I mentioned earlier makes sure that all employees are better off overall under the enterprise agreement compared to what they would be under the award. So an enterprise agreement is always a benefit to employees. It can't be used to undermine the award or the national employment standards. In addition to enterprise agreements, we do sometimes have other documents, which might be an individual employment contract or a collective determination made under legislation. But the vast majority of Australian public service employees are covered by these collective enterprise agreements. So I've talked about the legislative framework, and I've talked about the ability to make collective enterprise agreements. I want to now explain what the Australian government has done specifically for the Australian public service. So the Australian government has published a policy called the Public Sector Workplace Relations Policy. And the policy explains what government's expectation is for pay and conditions of Australian government employees. So the policy requires agencies, those 100 agencies that I mentioned, to negotiate enterprise agreements with their employees. Agencies are required to do this. And the policy also articulates and it sets out the types of things that agencies must include in their enterprise agreements with their employees, but also the things they must not include in their enterprise agreements. And government's policy intent is to ensure that appropriate pay increases and non-monetary conditions are provided to Australian government employees. The Australian government is committed to providing fair and reasonable pay increases to Australian government employees. And because these employees are paid with public money, there's a high level of scrutiny from the Australian public. So the government looks closely at the wage increases which it thinks are fair and reasonable. The government provides that same pay increase to all Australian government employees. So there are 100 different agencies, all of them with different enterprise agreements, but they all must provide the same pay increase. And we're doing that to try and move to greater commonality in pay scales across the Australian public service. And I'll have a little bit more to say about that shortly. So in the Australian public service, the biggest part of remuneration is an employee's base salary. The base salary is the salary that an employee receives for the work they perform. And it's represented before tax. In the APS, as we mentioned earlier, there are 12 classifications ranging from graduates or new entrants through to the senior executive service. And each of those classifications has a salary range. So for example, an APS 5 employee might start on a salary of $75,000 and then progress through each year receiving pay increases until they reach $85,000. And employees move through those salary ranges as they demonstrate that they have the skills and competencies required to progress through that salary range. The different salary for each classification is determined by work value, which is an assessment of the level of responsibility, seniority, and the requirements of a particular role. And therefore, more senior classifications earn higher salaries. An APS 1, for example, might do fairly basic tasks like data entry with strict controls and regulation, whereas an EL2, an executive level 2 employee, might be required to manage a variety of teams, be accountable for work outputs, and contribute to the broader strategic direction of the department. And so the agency needs to ensure that they're paying salaries that are necessary to commensurate employees for the work performed. The other point that I want to emphasize is that the 100 different agencies all have this same classification structure. That makes it easy for an employee to move from one agency to another. And so if you're an APS 6 at the tax office, you can move to an APS 6 at the Department of Defence. This picture on the slide here shows base salaries and the increases between 2018 and 2022. And so each year, employees can expect a higher pay increase in their classification structure. So base salary is the biggest part of an employee's pay. But another important part is what we in Australia call superannuation. Superannuation is retirement savings or perhaps a pension plan. It's money that's put aside by the employer during the employee's working life for the employee to live on when they retire from work. In Australia, all employers are required to pay superannuation into an account that's locked away that no one can access. And they have to pay those contributions at a rate of 11% of an employee's base salary. Depending upon when the employee started working in the public service, they might be in one of two types of superannuation funds. One type of fund is called a defined benefit fund, and a defined benefit guarantees an employee a portion of their salary upon retirement. That's an expensive scheme to run. And so in the last 30 years, those schemes have been discontinued, and the new scheme is called an accumulation fund or a defined contribution. And in those schemes, employees aren't guaranteed a particular salary when they retire, but they're guaranteed that a particular contribution will be made to the fund each year of their working life. And those monies are invested in the share market to generate a return. In the Australian Public Service, the rate of employer superannuation contributions is 15.4% of their base salary, which is obviously higher than the 11% which the general Australian community receive. And that's one of the benefits of working in the Australian Public Service, is that higher remuneration in the form of superannuation savings. As you can see in the picture on the slide here, the PSS is the defined benefit fund, and it's trending downwards because it's closed. Similarly, the CSS, or the Commonwealth Superannuation Scheme, is quite low. But the default scheme is the Public Service Accumulation Plan, and that's at 50% membership. And so most APS employees are in that plan. All right, so we've got base salaries and we've got superannuation. Another really important part of remuneration in the Australian Public Service is allowances. And allowances are additional money paid to employees for a few different reasons. So an allowance might be paid if an employee has difficult working conditions. So for example, it might be hot, or it might be windy, or they might be working on a boat. Lots of different reasons that might mean that their workplace is an unpleasant place to be. And so employees in those roles might receive additional allowances. Another type of allowance might be if an employee has a particular qualification or special skill. And one example there might be if somebody is working in a media team and they need to be contactable after hours, they might receive a restriction allowance because that employee is expected to be contactable. And then finally, we also have work-related expenses, which will cover things like food or accommodation or travel if an employee is required to do those things for their work. Allowances vary quite a bit. Some agencies have lots of allowances and some don't have many at all. But for the employees that receive them, it's an important part of their remuneration. Where an employee's salary recognises higher duties for the role they do, the allowance is generally not paid in addition to that. All right. Another part that we have is performance bonuses. And a performance bonus is additional money which is paid to a public servant essentially for doing a good job or reaching a key performance indicator if they achieve a target. In August 2021, the government published some performance bonus guidance, which suggested that in most instances, performance bonuses are not appropriate in the Australian Public Service. So whilst it used to be common for some public servants to receive bonuses if they achieved targets, those bonuses have received a lot of scrutiny in the Australian media, and particularly because it's government money or public money that's being spent. And so the performance bonus guidance requires agency to show rigour and restraint and only use performance bonuses in limited circumstances. Government said that in most instances it's not appropriate for performance bonuses to still be paid, but there are still some out there. Since the performance bonus guidance came into effect, the use of performance bonuses has sharply declined. In 2021, a total of 1,100 performance bonuses were paid, but that decreased to 765 in 2022, a 30% reduction. There was also a reduction in the number of agencies who paid these bonuses. That dropped from 19 to 13. We expect that in future years, those bonuses will continue to reduce. And agencies are considering a number of options for discontinuing them for their employees. I want to speak now about the concept of pay equity. Within the Australian Public Service, there are two different ways that we'll talk about pay equity. The first one is gender pay equity, so men and women. And the second one is work value, being people at the same classification with the same level of seniority. If I can start with gender equity, that is ensuring that men and women who are performing the same job are paid the same amount of money for their work. That's not just with their base salaries, but also with allowances and performance bonuses and superannuation. People should receive remuneration for their skills and their talents, and there shouldn't be a gender bias, is the position of the Australian government. And so the gender pay gap is calculated in Australia and it's monitored very closely. The other category of pay equity in Australia is work value. So work value, as we said earlier, is about categorizing how senior is a job, how much responsibility does an employee have. And currently, employees at the same classification with the same responsibilities can be earning significantly different salaries dependent upon the agency in which they're employed. So there are 100 different agencies, and some might pay their APS 5s $75,000. Others might pay the same employees $85,000. And so that difference is another aspect of pay equity, which the Australian government is now trying to address to lead to greater equality. So I mentioned the gender pay gap. The gender pay gap is the difference in earnings between men and women, and the Australian government is committed to helping to close that gap. I mentioned that it was tracked, and we have a specific agency called the Workplace Gender Equality Agency who measures this data each year. As you can see from the graph, the gender pay gap has been steadily declining over the past 5 years. In 2018, it was 7.8%. Most recently, it's dropped to 5.2%. That's the figure for the Australian Public Service specifically, and it's lower than the Australian average. The Australian average gender pay gap is 13%. So the Australian Public Service is less than half the gender pay gap of the broader Australian economy. With respect to work value, in the APS, we're calling that pay fragmentation, when the pay rate that an employee should receive is fragmented and you get different rates at different agencies. And that has occurred because enterprise agreements have been negotiated individually for each agency, and some agencies had more money and could pay bigger pay increases. Other agencies didn't have as many resources and paid smaller pay increases. Over time, agencies have drifted apart. And so you can see in this table here that an APS 6 might be earning $78,000 or $114,000, depending upon the agency in which they're employed. The government is currently going through a process of seeking to close that gap so that there isn't that differentiation. All right. So that's lots of money talk.
Excuse me, Mr. Miller.
Yes.
I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but I just let you know that the time only 3 minutes left for you.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe you can go faster. Thank you very much.
Sure, I will do that. Thank you. So those are the monetary benefits. We also have non-monetary benefits. So most prominently there is leave entitlements, and then job security. We close down over the Christmas end of year period. And each of those things are important aspects of an employee's compensation. They're highly valued by employees. Moving to employee safety, the government has regulated work health and safety at the national level. And there's an act there that requires agencies to consult with their employees and unions. It allows them to elect health and safety representatives who have responsibility for a safe workplace. And that's something that the Australian government takes very seriously. Workers' compensation is money that is provided to an employee who is injured at work. And so if you're at work and you get sick or you're injured because of your work, there is an insurance scheme that will provide compensation for an employee to support them through their medical expenses and rehabilitation. Moving on to public service awards and medals. The Australian Public Service provides public service medals, which recognise outstanding service by Australian government employees to the government and the country. These can be for excellent service, for innovation, for leadership, or achieving more efficient processes. An individual that's received one of these awards puts the letters PSM after their name as a post-nominal. And then there's also public service medals in the states and territories. It's important to note that Australian government employees are not entitled to this medal automatically, but only if they demonstrate outstanding performance. I'd like to close just by saying that we've got a few links here which provide some extra information on the things that I've discussed today. And once again, I'd like to thank the Indonesian National Civil Service Agency for extending this invitation to me to present on this important topic. I look forward to answering some questions in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Mr. Harrison Miller for your comprehensive explanation. And I know we understand that the broadened topics we need a lot of time, but because we have only limited time, and maybe next we can continue to deeper our understanding in the question and answer. But before that, I will read some notes maybe from your presentation. The first is the Australian based on regulated in Australian Public Service is regulated by the Public Service Act 1999, and also Australian Public Service has 12 classification with different base salaries as higher classification require more accountability, complexity, and responsibility. And also for the superannuation, or we can usually call pension, for the legal superannuation or pension rate is about 11% of base salary, but for the Australian Public Service have additional benefits, so they have 15.4%. And Australian Public Service employees receive allowances depending on their circumstances, and one of it is based on the working condition, maybe special duties and working related costs and other things that may be referring for the salaries. And also, the Australian government is currently committed to closing the gender pay gap for women in the Australia. The Australian government has a specialized agency called the Workplace Gender Equality Agency, which seek to promote and improve gender equality in the workplace, including in terms of pay. And also about the words, Australian have the Public Service Medals, or PSM, recognizes outstanding service performance by Australian government employee as well as state, territory, and local government employees. Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll give Mr. Harrison the big applause. Thank you very much. And for the next presentation will be delivered by Ms. Wang Yi from Chinese Academy of Personal Science. Please, are you ready to deliver your presentation, Ms. Wang Yi? Ms. Wang Yi, are you there?
Thank you very much.
Okay, the time is yours, please.
Okay, let's share the screen. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fitriyanto, for your kind introduction. And Honorable Prime Secretary and active Chairman of the NCSA of Indonesia, colleagues, it's very honored for me to attend this important event on the sharing of managing civil service compensation and benefits strategy with all of you. And I'd like to thank the National Civil Service Agency from Indonesia for organizing such an important event. And also thank Mr. Miller from Australian Public Service Commission for your insightful and informative presentation. And we do look forward to further exchanges and communication with you on related topics. Just as mentioned in the welcome speech by Ms. Imasu Maria, that in terms of the civil service management, actually all countries around the world, they have something in common, especially in terms of the compensation management. We have some common principles, but due to the different national contexts and the social and environmental development, we do have our own features and characteristics that we could learn from each other to draw on from each other's practices. And according to the list from the NCSA about the request from the resource person, we prepare this presentation together with my colleague. And my presentation mainly consists of 5 parts. So first, let's talk about the job class and salary level. The job class of the classification of civil servants actually is a very fundamental issue, and many countries also adopt such a classification system in accordance with different standards and criteria. And in China, the Law of People's Republic of China on civil servants provides that the state shall adopt a post-classification system for civil service. And the posts of civil service in China are basically classified into 3 categories. They are the general administration category, professional and technical category, and law enforcement category. And we can see that in the table. For the general administration category, it mainly refers to those performing duties in general administration and internal management of the organ, and are specifically engaged in planning, consulting, decision-making, organizing, commanding, coordinating, supervising, and internal management. And we can see that civil servants in this category is the largest in number, and it consists the majority of civil service in the civil service system in China. And in terms of the second category, the professional and technical category, and they mainly refers to these civil servants responsible for professional and technical work and provide technical support for and secure the performance of certain organs. And these posts are generally set up in the internal agencies of organs at the municipal levels or above. For example, the organs in the of public security, the auditing, as well as customs. And for the third category, it is the category of law enforcement. And these posts are referring to those directly carrying out law enforcement duties, such as administrative licensing, administrative penalties, and inspections. And these posts are generally set up in organs that at municipal level or below, such as the ecological environmental protection, market supervision, as well as urban management. And in addition to these three categories, we also have other kinds of posts of civil servants, such as inspectors, procurators, as well as the inspectors. And they are governed by because they have their own features and characteristics, so they are governed by different laws, such as the inspector's law, the procurator's law, and and other related laws in China. And before we, sorry, next slide. Before I introduce about the salary level of civil service in China, I would like to give a brief introduction of this parallel system of positions and grades of civil servants in China. Next slide, please. Okay. Actually, China has implemented a parallel system of positions and grades of civil service. And what is this kind of system? We can see that in this graph, on the left, we can see the leading positions. They are set up in all the three categories of civil servants I introduced before. And in for them, we can see the typical titles in this category include the deputy director, director, or director general, etc. That means the posts, the civil servant who take certain leading roles in the system. And on the right side, we can see a grade system, because in different categories, there are civil servants that undertake different duties and responsibilities, and their competencies are not only reflected from their positions, whether they are taking a leading role. So we set up such a grade system for those civil servants. And they are set up separately for each category. And this typical title for them are associate, consultant, consular, etc. And both these leading positions and grades are corresponding to certain levels. We can see that's the level in the middle. And this kind of parallel system gives more potential to civil servants to gain progress in their career, especially for those at grassroots level, where the number of leading positions are limited, and also for those civil servants who undertake the professional or technical work. And so from this for this grade system, for this grade system, a civil servant does not need is not automatically promoted from one grade to another. The promotion is also dependent on both seniority or years of working and competency. And the latter, the competency, is a more important standard to decide whether a civil servant will be promoted from one grade to another. So that is to say, not everyone from the civil service will get promoted in terms of grades with their working years accumulated. Therefore, this kind of a parallel system provide a very comprehensive basis for the salary setting. And the salary should not only safeguard the livelihood of a civil servant, but also play the role as a kind of incentive. And I think that is also the same in other countries. And in many countries, the salary is set based on the duties, responsibilities, and the seniority of civil servants, and that is also the same in China. So back to the parallel system, when one civil servant is taking a leading role, then he or she will take more responsibility or duties. So this kind of duties is reflected mainly from their positions. Well, for the grades, so the competencies and the years of working or seniority are mainly reflected from the grade. So the leading positions, grades, and levels of civil servants decide the salary and the benefits of a civil servant will receive. Well, for judges and procurators, there is a matching salary system, policies, and standards set up separately for them. Okay, for the second part, the salary gap among regions. The salary of civil servants in China. First, a brief introduction of the salary compensation of civil servants in China. The salary of civil servants in China consists of base pay, allowance, subsidy, and bonus, which is similar to that of the Australian one. The base pay is determined based on a national uniformed system, policy, and standard, and plays a very fundamental role in safeguarding the civil servant's livelihood. And in accordance with the national regulations, civil servants in China also enjoy allowances. For example, the locality allowance, hardship and remote regions allowance, and post allowance. And they also enjoy such subsidies and benefits. For example, subsidies for housing and subsidies for healthcare, medical care. And for bonuses, there are many year-end lump sum bonus and performance bonuses. So a few more words on allowances and subsidies. Allowances and subsidies are divided into three categories, including the regional allowance and subsidies, post-allowance and subsidies, as well as reform-related subsidies. For these regional related subsidies, they reflect the different social and economic developments of different regions in China, while the related subsidies and allowances, they reflect the natures of posts. For example, for posts in harsh environment, like in field work and work under the water, and for posts in hazardous environment, for example, the health subsidy will provide it for certain jobs or posts, such as work at height. And for special posts like teachers and policemen, we also have a different post subsidies for them. And as for the reform-related subsidy, it means the subsidies result from the in-kind subsidy reform. And it is very essential to have the difference between the regions in terms of civil servants' salary. And the sound salary system should reflect this kind of differences. And that is also the same with other countries like Australia and Indonesia, because we are all large countries with a very large range of territory. In China, the salary gaps or differences in different regions are mainly reflected in regional allowance, and as well as the subsidies. And for the regional allowance, we have two kinds of these allowances. First one is a locality allowance. This means to compensate the civil servants in different regions and with regarding to the living costs. And for this kind of remote, and this is also common practices of the international civil service system. This locality allowance reflects a difference in economic development level and social development level between different regions. And the state manages locality allowance by levels and regulates locality allowance levels of all the regions. And for the second type of allowance, because we have a large territory, the geographical environment varies a lot. It's quite complicated and diversified. So the hardship and remote region allowance mainly reflects differences in the geographic environment and social development level. It is intended to compensate the civil servants for working and living in difficult and remote environments. And the state manages the hardship and remote regions allowance in a uniformed way. According to the degree of hardship and remoteness, hardness and remote regions are divided into 6 categories, ranging from the lowest, category 1, to category 6. And the allowance is also issued in accordance with this kind of a classification. And next part is about the retirement insurance and pension system in China. In October 2014, China conducted a reform of the old age insurance system for civil servants and public institution employees. After this reform, civil servants and public institutions, they all joined this basic old age insurance scheme, same as that for enterprise employees. And this scheme combines social pooling and individual accounts. Under such a system, the benefit calculation and payment method are linked to individual contributions. And an incentive mechanism has also been established to ensure that the longer one contributes, and the later one retires, the more one will receive. And the insurance scheme covers organs, administrative on the law of People's Republic of China on civil servants, as well as public institutions. This contribution paid by organs or departments or institutions is 16% of the total salary. And the contribution from these individuals, the individual civil servants, is 8% of their own salaries. And for those who are recruited or employed after this reform, the basic old age insurance benefits consist of a basic pension and personal account pension. And in accordance with the salary increases and price changes, the basic pension will be adjusted accordingly. In addition to this basic old age insurance scheme, civil servants and public employees, they also enjoy this occupational annuity. The contribution rate of organs or institutions to this occupational annuity is in total is 8% of the total salary, and that of the individual civil servant is 4% of their salaries. And this occupational annuity fund is managed by mainly by individual accounts, and individual contributions are accumulated in real accounts. When civil servant or public institution retires, the benefit will be paid monthly from the accumulated account and in accordance with related agreements with the civil servant or public employee with the institution they work. In terms of the medical insurance for civil servants, in China, as mainland, civil servants do not enjoy free medical service. Currently, we have a universal medical insurance system in China. We have the world's largest basic medical insurance network covering the entire population. So the basic system includes basic medical insurance for employees and basic medical insurance for urban and rural residents. All employers, including government organs, enterprises, public institutions, and social organizations, they are required to participate in this basic medical insurance scheme. And for this scheme, basically, the premiums are contributed jointly by the employer and employee. And in our case, the institutions or organs and the civil servants. The contribution rate by the employer are controlled at around 6% of the total salary, and it is about 75% now, currently at of the national average. And the contribution rate for the employee is about 2% of their salaries. The same region will implement the same uniformed policy for medical insurance benefits, and with no difference in the occupational categories or levels of the income of the participants. At the same time, since China is promoting the construction of a multi-level medical insurance system, in order to maintain the stability of the civil servants and to ensure that the efficient operation of the government, the state has also established a supplementary medical insurance system for civil servants. On the basis of this basic medical insurance system, we civil servants are also entitled to the medical subsidies for them at their place of residence in accordance with the related regulations. And the funding for this kind of subsidy is included into the current year's budget of the corresponding financial authorities. And individuals, they also have to pay a certain amount of out-of-pocket expenses. And the next part is about the awards for model civil servants. In China, the awarding system for model civil servants have following features. Firstly, it is political and standards prioritized. And secondly, a merit-oriented way is adopted. Model civil servants who receive awards should concentrate on their work and perform their duties with integrity and solidly promote their implementation of policies of the state, work with dedication and strength to do practical and good work for the public and to solve difficult problems. They have consistently performed well all of the years to the satisfaction of the public with their outstanding performance. And the third feature is that the exemplary role of the civil servants is highlighted. Model civil servants who receive awards should take the lead in cultivating morality, setting an example in nurturing a culture of integrity, consciously abiding by the principle of integrity and self-discipline, and serve the public with dedication, integrity, and honesty, and care about their family and pay attention to the behavior of themselves. And we also have this law on civil servants and regulations award on civil servants award. In this regulation, it makes clear and detailed provisions on conditions and circumstances under which civil servants are to be awarded. There are totally 10 kinds of conditions. For example, being devoted to their official duties, and abiding by the disciplinary rules and laws, being clean, honest, and also having made inventions or innovations in their work, having made outstanding contributions to enhance the ethnic unity, and having made meritorious performance in preventing or eliminating accidents, having made outstanding contributions on the special circumstances, such as some emergency circumstances, and having performed meritorious deeds in fighting against the act of violating disciplinary rules, or having won award honors and secured the interests of the state, and having made other outstanding achievements. So in this awarding system, we value very much on the moral level, on morality and values, integrity of the civil servants. And I think that is also the same with other countries in the world. And in our past research, we also done related research in the code of conduct and values for civil servants of different countries. And we found it is also the same all around the world. So that is all for my presentation today, and I have more time for the Q&A session. And I and my colleague from related department here are willing to take your questions and communications, and hope we can have more exchanges after that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for Ms. Wang Yi for your insightful presentation, and we can have a deeper understanding. Thank you very much, because we have learned from China about the compensation and benefit strategy, and also what we've got, what the civil servants got there. And let me read for some notes from your presentation. For the first, That's the in big classification. China has 4 classification, right? This is category like for the first general administration category, and then for the second professional and technical category, and then law enforcement category and others. And also China also has considered about the gap salary based on local allowance depend on the economic development of this area, price and consumption, and also geographic environment and social development. And also about the salary in China, salary composition consists of year-end and performance bonuses and subsidies, including housing, health, and health subsidies, and also the same allowance and the same basic salary, and also about an old age insurance. Correct me if I'm wrong, that for institution have 16%, but from individually they have to contribute about the 8%, right? So totally 24%. And also about the words for exemplary civil servant have criteria and provision that support the government. Their achievement can be adopted and implemented. Their example can be followed, and also there are 10 points or 10 criteria based on laws and regulation regarding a civil servant award. Thank you very much, and give Ms. Wang Yi a warm applause. Thank you very much, and we come to the question and answer. I know based on the presentation from two our magnificent speakers, I believe that a lot of questions already in participants' mind, but let me give
opportunity and invite from our colleague in the virtual room. Please press your raise button, and then we can choose let me see, maybe 3 participants, or because we still have more than 1 hour. Please, maybe which one who already raised the hand? I invite for, our colleague from CSC. Please don't forget to mention your name, your country maybe, and the question is referred to whom? Is it Mr. Miller or Ms. Wang Yi? Please, your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fuad, and thank you very much, Mr. Harrison and Mr. Wan, for a very thoughtful presentations and sharing of your own country system. Just one question for Mr. Harrison, and maybe one question from Ms. Wan, if I may. My question to Mr. Harrison, I'm just interested to know, you have different type of remuneration system with you benefits and allowances, and I was wondering if you could share with us whether the Australian government do a calculation of costs annually in order to, for those different type of benefit, and also just a confirmation with the national employment standard that is applied to all employment and not only civil servant, is it? So that's kind of the question. And then my question to Ms. Wan, just a confirmation, you talk about different type of contributory system. There was a contributory system of 16%, 8% and 6%, and within that range you have a contribution from the employee, people who work, 8% for the 16%, 4% for the 8%, and 6% for the 2. My question is there an accumulations of a contribution? So if I was to do my own calculation, that will be 8% plus 4% plus 2% of my salary, or how do you do those calculations? Thank you very much and appreciate your insight.
All right, thank you very much from our colleague from Timor-Leste. And maybe we can strike to give an opportunity to answer. First, I give to Mr. Harrison Miller to answer, and then followed by Ms. Wangi. Please.
Thank you, and Commissioner, thank you for your question. Yes, the national employment standards apply to all Australian employees, and then additional layers are added specifically for the Australian public service. But the national employment standards are for everyone. And then regarding the calculations for wage increases, yes, what the Australian government does is consider lots of data points to make a judgment about what is a fair and reasonable pay increase to offer all public servants. In looking at those figures, the big indicators that are used are the Consumer Price Index, which is a measurement of inflation. We also look at an index called the Wage Price Index, which measures the pay increases that other people in the Australian economy are receiving. And the Fair Work Commission, which publishes, which approves enterprise agreements, also publishes the average increase that is provided to other Australians around their country. And then the Australian government considers those data points and makes the decision about what is fair and reasonable in the circumstances. And that's how wage offers are developed in the Australian public service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harrison. And then followed with Ms. Wangi, please. You can answer slightly.
Thank you very much for your question. Yes, you are right. This kind of contribution from both the employer and employee is accumulated. That is to say, the total contribution from the employer or the government organs is 16% plus 8%. That is a total of 24% of the total salary. And that from employee is 8% plus 4%, which is a total of 12%. So that is to ensure this the comprehensive system for them in terms of the old age pension. And it is also the same for the public institution employees and some of the enterprise employees.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wan.
All right, thank you very much for your answer. And we come to the second virtual question. It's already from Indonesia. This Mr. Muhammad Firman from Indonesia. Please, time is yours, sir. So sorry, because we can't hear you, sir. Wait a minute. Is there any trouble with the speaker, or maybe we can't still hear you? Please, colleague, can you help Mr. Firman? Okay, we wait for Mr. Firman, but we try to maybe move to next participant. Maybe, so sorry, Mr. Firman, maybe after Miss Vicky from Indonesia, we can give you a chance to ask the question. Please, for Vicky from Indonesia.
Hello, is my voice heard clearly?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. It was a very interesting topic among us about compensation, of course. There are a lot of questions I would like to ask, but one thing I think the most important question that I want to ask to both of speaker, Mr. Harrison and Ms. Wangi. There's one thing that I always wonder about performance and compensation. Some people said performance, compensation based on performance, but maybe in some condition we need to agree that performance sometimes based on compensation. And because of that, I really interesting on Mr. Harrison Miller said about performance bonus guidance. So I would like to ask about, do you think it is important for public servant like us to have those guidance? Because in some condition, like Indonesia have a lot of islands. So as a public servant, we need to be ready to be relocated anywhere. So it is possible for us who live in, for example, like Jakarta, work in Papua, West Papua, etc. So there is a differences need to live a decent life, and because of the differences competency, sometimes for one position we might have a different responsibility, difference, something that we need to face in our location like that. So I would love to see and hear about both of point of view of yours, both of speakers about that. And maybe one thing, do you think which one is better? Performance based on compensation or compensation based on performance? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Vicky from Indonesia. That maybe it's interrelated which is when the civil servant has to transfer or to move in another region or maybe remote region. That's very influence for the motivation or auto performance. Is it performance-based compensation or compensation-based performance? Is it which one? Maybe Mr. Harrison, and maybe also Ms. Wangi also, maybe there's a will give a comment about it. Please, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you very much. And Vicky, thank you for your question. So I absolutely agree that remuneration should be based on performance. And so in Australia, I mentioned we have our classification system, and they are determined by work value. And the work value determines the standard of performance that is expected of all employees at that classification. And that work value is their performance, and that determines the salary that they're applicable for. And so that's really important. And then when somebody moves through a salary range, they only progress if they are meeting the expectations of their role. If they're not performing well, they will not progress in their salary. So I think there's a really important link between performance and the remuneration that you receive, and the government expects a high performing public service. With specific reference to the performance bonus guidance, the sensitivity there had a few matters to it. First of all, it's about public money, and providing big performance bonuses to people was not very politically popular for the broader community. And so the fact that it's government money or public money means that you need to be really careful in how you spend it. And the other aspect of it, Vicky, was that within the classification system, the individuals which were more likely to receive performance bonuses were those senior employees who are already on large remuneration packages. And there was a view that it wasn't appropriate for them to receive additional remuneration on top of their already significant base salaries. And so we're trying to balance those two important aspects that you mentioned. Absolutely, performance is important, but compensation is public money. And so you need to balance that as well. And that's how we're trying to do it in Australia.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe Ms. Wangi, you give a comment about the compensation and also performance, please.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. And actually, it is quite important to clarify the relations between compensation and performance. And we also agree with Mr. Miller that performance is a quite important base, but the salary of the civil servants, they are from the public financing, and we need to use it in a fair or a very cautious way. And in China, actually in the salary of civil servants, we in my presentation, we can also see there is a part of a bonus. So that is the bonus part is mainly performance based, and it is not count for a large part of the salary of a civil servant. And for this to address the difficulties or differences between different regions, such as the remote region and some hardship region, we have this kind of locality allowance for these civil servants to address the gap and to compensate them on their living costs or some danger resulting from their work.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Vicky. Is there any additional or comment? Is it enough for the explanation or?
That's enough. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very
Mr.
much.
Harrison. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And before we give Mr. Firman for the next question, just short answer. May I ask about the question related to the performance and also compensation? Is it in Australia and also in China? Is it promoting or transferring to remote area with maybe minimum facilities? Is it become a punishment, or maybe that is there any punishment when someone to move maybe because the less performance and then give the consequences to move another region with the less facilities? Is it happen in Australia and also China? And in a short answer, please, Mr. Miller and Ms. Wangi.
Thank you for your question. In Australia, if an employee moves to an area with less facilities, they receive remote locality allowances. So largely additional money, additional paid leave, and additional time to travel back to their home base or their family as necessary. So additional money is provided. A lot of the time, people won't be directed to work at a remote locality. It will be a discussion. And in most instances, the employee is willing to move to that remote locality for work purposes.
Okay, thank you. It means that in Australia, there is no quote-unquote punishment to move because, thank you. How about in China, Ms. Wangi?
Yeah, I think it's basically the same with that. In Australia, we also have this kind of a locality allowance for those who work to these remote areas. And it is also kind of incentives to encourage them to work in some remote areas and to contribute to the construction of that region. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
There is no such punishment.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the next, the third participant, we give a chance to Mr. Firman. Please, Mr. Firman. So sorry, Mr. We can't hear your voice. Maybe.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Fuad. Thank you for the presenter, Mr. Harrison Miller and Ms. Wang Yi for the comprehensive presentation. I have just one simple question is about the pension scheme or the retirement scheme. I would like to know more about that issue and your personal opinion about the issue. Do you think the retirement scheme in your country is it sufficient enough to make the retirement of the civil servant to have to enjoy their retirement? I think that's my question to you both. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Firman, and we change to give a chance Ms. Wang Yi first, and then Mr. Harrison. Okay, please, Ms. Wang Yi, your comment maybe
Yes.
for the question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so in China, actually, we have already achieved a universal protection of the population in terms of old age insurance, and because we have a quite large population, and now we also have established a multi-level old age insurance system. That is for the first level, it is the basic old age insurance pension for both urban and rural residents. And also we have the basic old age insurance pension scheme for the enterprise employees. And for the second level, we now have the occupational annuity for public employees, as well as enterprise annuity for the enterprise employees. And we also have the third level, that is the individual pension, and which is we are still exploring now. And last year we have issued a kind of regulation regarding to the individual pension, and we encourage the banks or the insurance companies to provide such products to the individuals to ensure their pensions after they retire. So this is actually in general, China has established such a comprehensive and multi-level system, but there is still a lot to improve and still a long way to go. Yeah, hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wang Yi. Now, please, Mr. Harrison, to answer the question from Mr. Firman.
Thank you, Mr. Furman. Yes, Australia has a very strong retirement income system. So for the past 31 years, it's been law that an employer must put aside part of an employee's earnings for retirement. And that money is locked away so the employee cannot access it until they reach retirement age. That process means that a lot of Australians are now retiring with healthy retirement pensions, which provide them an income after retirement. That's particularly the case in the APS because of the higher contribution rate. So that system is working very well. And then in addition to that, the government provides all Australians with an aged pension. That is income tested, so it's there only if you need it, otherwise you won't receive it. But most people, the superannuation is good. For other people, the pension there is to catch them. And so that works really well in Australia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harrison. Is that enough, Mr. Firman? All right. Thank you very much for the virtual participant. And we come to Slido. Maybe our colleague already provided about the question. We come to the Slido. Okay. Okay. The question for this is from Slido. Question for Mr. Harrison Miller from Yuda Noval Enil. How can the strategies be tailored to align with our organization's unique needs, ensuring an effective and competitive compensation and benefits approach? The question for Mr. Harrison, please.
Thank you very much for the question. And I think it again goes to the balance between having commonality and consistency so that everyone has the same, but also wanting agencies to be able to tailor it to align it to their unique needs. And Australia's been on a bit of a journey in recent years, and for the past 30 years, agencies have had their individual arrangements, and there's been a lot of tailoring to unique circumstances. But what that has meant is that there are big differences, and people have thought that that isn't fair, or it's made it more difficult to move around the service. And so the Australian experience in recent years has been to move towards greater commonality and away from more tailored solutions for individual needs. In trying to balance those things, however, we're promoting commonality where that makes sense, and base salaries is a big part of it. But allowances, for example, are unique and specific to the individual agency. And so what we've done is we've defined those things we think should be common, and we've designed those things which we think can be unique and individual, and we've allowed agencies to choose the individual parts whilst achieving commonality about the common parts. But it is a balancing act here in Australia.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Harrison. And any comment from Ms. Wangi, or we straight to? Okay, we straight to the second question for Ms. Wangi from Brunei Darussalam. What's the basis of 6% of the salary contribution towards the medical insurance fund in civil service? Please, Ms. Wangi.
Oh, that is the total salary for the civil servants of the civil servants. Yes.
Thank you. That's 6% from the total salary.
The 6%, the basis of the 6% of the contribution from the institutions is the total salary for the civil servant.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for your the answer of the question. We move to the third. Is there any third question? Back question from anonymous. So for Mr. Harrison Miller, what is public servants' opinion on decline of performance bonus following the introduction of performance bonus guidance?
Yeah, that's an important question. So I would say that most public servants did not receive these performance bonuses in the past. So it hasn't been a big deal to see them reduce. Where we do want to remove them, however, we have done what we've called transitional arrangements. And so the employees are giving up their performance bonus. But what we've done is we've allowed agencies to buy out or compensate employees for the loss of those performance bonuses. And so in the short term, they'll win and they'll feel okay. But in the long term, that government policy will be achieved and the performance bonus will reduce. So it hasn't been a big problem, but we've used compensation to make it a little bit easier where that's necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. That's maybe just pretending if civil servant there. So this is the
I mean, the screening it quite harder. so the bonuses will be difficult, more difficult, but that maybe we need to do that for the improvement of institution of government. Thank you very much for answering the question. And maybe once more before we move to virtual participant for number 4, Fredrik Kayafas, so sorry if I'm wrong in pronounce. How do you arrange health care for civil servants? Is there any special treatment for civil servants to get access to health services? This is for Ms. Wang Yi.
Yes,
please.
okay. Yeah, there's no other special treatment for civil servants in terms of access to health services. Yeah, we do provide the health care subsidies for them, but we don't have additional special treatment for them in terms of health service.
All right, thank you very much. We have 4 questions from Slido, and then we move to virtual strike question. We already have 2 participants who already raised hand. First, from Malaysia, Arifin, Mr. Arifin, right? Please, your turn to ask. Azrin, Mr. Azrin, please, your turn to ask, and don't forget to whom the speakers refer to.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Azrin from Public Service Department of Malaysia. All right, for your information, here in Malaysia, we are currently in the midst of revising our current public service remuneration scheme, and are expected to come out with a new remuneration adjustment coming January 2025. All right. So I have 2 questions here. One is on how frequent Australia and China government revise your public service RAM package or remuneration scheme. And the number 2 is, as we know, with regard to the adjustment on the remuneration system, it involves a huge amount of money because we are talking about salary, allowances, and etc. Right? So therefore, if I may ask you both, apart from monetary aspect, what are the aspects we can look at to make significant changes in any improvement exercise within the public service to encourage and boost morale and motivation among the public servant? Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you very much for our colleague from Malaysia, and please I give a chance to answer Mr. Harrison first, and then followed with Ms. Wang Yi.
Azrin, thank you for your question. So in Australia, I mentioned that it's most common for money to come from an enterprise agreement. An enterprise agreement is typically 3 years long. And so the government would typically reconsider its wages policy every 3 years. Within the enterprise agreement, the value of a wage increase might vary. For example, it might be 4% in year 1, 3% in year 2, and 2% in year 3, or it could go the other way. But it's a 3-year arrangement in most instances. As for other aspects beyond the remuneration, a really important one in Australia at the moment is flexible work. So that might be people working from home. That might be people working 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. It might be people starting later and then staying at work after 5 o'clock, and so being able to choose their own hours. But that sort of flexibility is something which there's been a lot of demand for in the Australian public service, and it doesn't have a direct cost associated with it. And so that's something that we've been exploring in Australia.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. And next, we give a chance for Ms. Wang Yi to answer the question, please.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the adjustments of the salary in China, according to related policies, we adjust it every 2 years, and in accordance with the changes of economic and social development and other indexes. And in terms of the second question, we think to promote the morality or values or the mobilities for the civil servants to provide dedicated work. We think though the monetary kind of or bonus is a very important, but important incentive, but awards, especially those awards to them to reward their good deed in their work, it is also very important aspect. And in China, we also set up several high-level awards for the civil servants to encourage them to serve the public better. Yeah, hope that answers the question. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Wang Yi. How about Ms. Azrin? Mr. Azrin, is it enough the explanation from Mr. Harrison and Ms. Wang Yi? Thank you very much. Hopefully, this is the moment that Malaysia, our colleagues from Malaysia can give some input from our setting today, this seminar for improving the remuneration system there. So we move to the next question. Participant from Indonesia, Mr. Rifki. Please give time to you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rifki Juniarto from Indonesia. Thanks for Mr. Fuad for giving me an opportunity to ask a question. This seminar was very interesting for me and give me a lot insight. There are few things I want to ask resource person, Mr. Harrison and Ms. Wang Yi. Maybe my question is a little of a topic today, but I want to ask. Are there a reward or bonus from high potential talent? And then how to determine potential employee from your country? So how you are determine potential employees, and then if I be a potential employee, what can I get from your institution? And then are there a reward in the from priority competency developed from high performance or civil servant something else? And then sorry, I want to ask, sorry, is there a talent management system? Please tell us about your talent management system from your institution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rifki, about your question, maybe related to the performance talent management. Is there any, for the top talent, is there any maybe reward or bonuses, or maybe the priority of improving competencies or anything? Maybe give chance to Ms. Wang Yi first to give a comment for Ms. Harrison.
Okay,
Please, Ms. Wang
thank
Yi.
you. Thank you for your question. Yes, I think the high potential talent is a quite important issue both in China and all around the world. And in China, we have such incentives and awards for this. You call it high potential talents, and we set up different titles for talents from different sectors, and when they will be selected from their field, and then they enjoy the title and also a certain amount of bonus at different levels. So that is our incentive policies for the high potential talents. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Wang Yi. Next, we're waiting for answer from Mr. Harrison. Please, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you. Rifki, thank you for your question. I'd like to emphasize two parts of talent management in Australia. So the first one is the training that we provide to Australian public services. So we have an organisation called the APS Academy, and the Academy offers courses on lots of different topics about policy writing, negotiation, communication skills, and employees are supported and encouraged to enrol in courses and to go and learn to develop their skills. That's a really important part of capability in the Australian public service. And then the other aspect is what we call higher duties allowance. And so an EL1 employee might be offered the opportunity to temporarily take on the role of an executive level 2 employee. And so you're acting at a higher classification. And in that way, you get to learn a little bit about what the role is like, and your colleagues and your supervisors get to see how you perform in that new role. And that's a really important part of rewarding high performers and also training people so that they're ready to take that next step. And so those are two things that we do in Australia.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Harrison and Ms. Wangi. Is that enough, Mr. Rifki?
Okay, thank you. And then for I just for ask for next, how do you determine it choice of people hang potential if you have give finance task or something else like hack potential like have ability more than another employee. Thank you, Mr. Pat. I want to ask once again for that.
You have additional question, right?
Yes.
Maybe short answer from Mr. Harrison. And so, Ms. Wangi, if you have.
Thank you. Rifki, in Australia, all public servants have an annual performance cycle. And so they enter into a written agreement about what the responsibilities and expectations are. And then they get assessed halfway through and they get assessed at the end. And those things allow managers and senior leadership to know who is performing well. And so when an opportunity comes up, the senior leadership will consider who is performing well, who has good performance progressions. And that's how it's done in Australia.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Ms. Wangi, you have additional answer?
Yes, in China, we have a kind of comprehensive evaluation system for civil servants. We have a regular evaluations and also the such as seasonal evaluation and yearly evaluation. And based on this evaluation, we provide this year-end lump sum bonus for them as a kind of award. Yes.
Thank you very much. I think it's enough. There is no additional question for Mr. Rifki. Okay, we move to Slido. Which one? We continue. Fifth question from Slido from Mr. Rojali, National Civil Service Agency, for both Mr. Harrison and also Ms. Wangi. Indonesia is an archipelago country. It has become challenge for government to make job rotation. Is there example for best practice to solve the issue in Australia and China? Please, I give to Mr. Harrison for the answer first.
Thank you for the question. So in Australia, we call this mobility within the Australian Public Service. And it means that a public servant can stay employed by the Australian Public Service, but move between those 100 agencies. To facilitate that, I'll point out three things. The first one is we have a common classification system. And so if you're an APS 3, you can move between those agencies at that same level. The second thing is that if you move, the regaining agency that you move to will match your salary. So you will not go backwards in salary. That's really important to encourage people to move. And then the third part is that agencies often provide relocation assistance. So if I'm a public servant in one town or city and I'm moving for a job in another town or city, they will pay for my relocation costs to get my belongings and my family to the new place. And that's how we manage mobility in the Australian Public Service. We think it's really important.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harrison. That so Australian government treats the civil servant when they have to move. It includes for family and also everything, so they can work satisfaction and also in good performance.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. And how about in China, Ms. Wang Yi, your turn?
Yes, in China, for those civil servants working in remote areas or different the regions with some difficult environmental environment, and we, in addition to the locality allowance and subsidies, we also have other policies to motivate the civil servants to work in regions where there is a need, such as the promotion in positions and increase in salaries. And we also provide the health care or education policies for their children, and so as they can work there without any burden. So we also try to use this way to promote and to encourage and motivate those talented civil servants to serve for the public in this kind of remote and difficult areas or regions.
Thank you very much for Ms. Wang Yi and also Mr. Harrison for the for answering the 5th question from slide 2. And we move to the 6th question. The participant didn't mention his or her name, but this is the question for Mr. Harrison. Can you clarify on why graduate median pay salaries are higher than APS, Australian Public Service Level 1, 2, and 3? Now, this is my question also, but already what represent with this question. Is it different in classification or education background or classification? Because start to APS 1, is it declining? Please, your time, Mr. Harrison.
No, thank you. Look, and you're exactly right. So the graduate classification is available to employees who have recently graduated from university or tertiary education. And so they necessarily have a degree and then they're engaged on that basis. And starting as an APS 3, they'd be largely middle of the pack. Whereas an APS 1 or an APS 2 would often be for roles that don't require tertiary education. And they might be people that have come straight from high school or secondary education. And so that is why the work value of a graduate is higher than the work value of an APS 1 or an APS 2. And that's why they get paid more.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. So this is for graduate, is not come, the next path is not going to level 1, but straight to which one?
Generally, you go from graduate to 4 or 5.
Oh, directly 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any question or maybe a lot of question in slide 2? We come to the 7th question from Mahavika Yusaria. The question for both of you, for Mr. Harrison and Ms. Wang Yi. Is there any effective way to align the mindset of civil servant that the higher compensation and benefits equal duties and responsibilities, which are also increasingly more? Please, I give to Ms. Wang Yi first, and then Mr. Harrison.
Thanks. I think in my presentation, I talk about the parallel system of positions and grades of civil servants in China. And that is a certain system to encourage and to align this kind of mindset of civil servants, that higher compensation or benefits you get, the more responsibilities you should take. And it is also a fairer way to not only consider into these leading positions of the civil servants who take the leading roles, but also those who do not take leading positions, but still have a lot of duties and responsibilities in their work in terms of professional or technical work. So that is a practice of our country. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Wang Yi. And next, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you. And I agree with China. In Australia, the classification system for all public servants determines your salary. And so in order to get higher salaries, you need to be promoted to those higher classifications. At some point, you will reach the top of your current classification, and to get more money, you will need to apply for that promotion. And that promotion will have higher expectations, higher work value, higher responsibilities. And so there is a very clear link in Australia that the responsibilities will come, the pay will come when you take on those responsibilities, and employees then make decisions about whether they want to take on those additional responsibilities for that extra money, or if they would prefer to stay in a role with less responsibilities, but also then less money.
All right, thank you very much for Ms. Wang Yi and also Mr. Harrison for the question and answer session. We really thankful for the participant who already gave an active ask the question from the audience, and many thanks to both of you who already sharing the experiences and about the policy in Australia and also China. And please give our two magnificent speakers who already sharing the experience about compensation and benefit in Australia and China. And we come to last because the limitation of time also, and we already discussed a lot. If I made to wrap up a little bit that the compensation and benefits is related to the performance, and also there is a compensation and benefits including the salary, basic salary, and also allowances, insurance, and also superannuation or pension, and also related to the award or bonuses that given to the employees. It will have a significant contribution to motivate employees in give their effort and performance to give the best services to community or to people. As a token of appreciation, allow me to confer certificates to our speakers. The first certificate is for Mr. Harrison Miller. Please give our appreciation to Mr. Harrison Miller. Give Mr. Harrison Miller applause. Please hold on. You can. We need to take a photograph. Thank you very much. We really appreciate for your kindness and your sharing this seminar. And for the second certificate is for Ms. Wang Yi. Please hold on a minute, and we are taking photographs. Thank you very much, Ms. Wang Yi.
Thanks.
Give applause for Ms. Wang Yi. Thank you, and please give our esteemed speaker a big round of applause. And ladies and gentlemen, our time is up. Thank you all for being here today and actively participating in this seminar. We hope that you find today's discussion enlightening and valuable, and hoping we will meet again in different occasions and different topics. I've done my task as moderator, and then back to our MC, Miss Eka. Back to you. Thank you very much, and please, if there are any inconvenience during I deliver or I being moderator, please, I'm so sorry. And back to Miss Eka. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you. Give a round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a very rich discussion, and there are massive things that we can learn from the sessions. And for all the participants, I would like to invite you to fulfill the survey as a requirement to get the certificate. So not only the speakers get the certificate, you will be also getting certificates as well. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded the sharing sessions and discussion. I hope each of us can take the best benefit from this event. I have now the honor to invite Mrs. Dewi Sartika, the head of Legal and Cooperation Divisions of NCSA, to deliver the closing remarks. Mrs. Dewi Sartika, the mic is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, everyone. Distinguished Acting Chairman of the National Civil Service Agency, Prime Secretary of the National Civil Service Agency, Director of Civil Service Compensation, National Civil Service Agency, High Officials of National Civil Service Agency, Mr. Harrison Miller from Australian Public Service Commission, Ms. Wang Yi from Chinese Academy of Personal Science, participants from ACCSM +3, Timor-Leste and ASEAN Secretariat, participants from National Civil Service Agency, ministries, agencies, and government institutions in Indonesia. Alhamdulillah, we extend our sincerest gratitude to Allah, God Almighty, for the successful conduct of the seminar on managing civil service compensation and benefit strategy. We feel very grateful that it was done as we planned. As we conclude this seminar, I would like to express my thankfulness to all of you for your active participation and valuable contributions throughout these insightful sessions. Our time together has been productive, and I hope you can leave the seminar room with a deeper understanding of the complexities and challenges inherent in this critical area of public administration. Throughout our discussions, we have delved into various aspects of compensation and benefits in civil service, including, first of all, competitive advantage, where we have learned that a well-structured compensation and benefit strategy is essential for attracting and retaining top talent in the public sector. The role of competitive advantage in the labor market has been emphasized. The second one is fairness and equity, where we've emphasized the importance of fairness and equity in compensation, ensuring that it aligns with public policy objectives and principles of social justice. And the last one, adaptability and flexibility, where we've discussed the need for flexibility and adaptability in compensation strategies to respond to evolving workforce dynamics and economic changes. As we depart, I encourage you all to take these insights back to your respective organizations and put them into practice. Implementing a sound compensation and benefit strategy is a continuous effort that can significantly impact our workforce's performance and the overall success of our civil service organization. Let me also extend my high appreciation and my deep respect to the speakers who generously shared their knowledge and experiences with us. Their expertise has enriched our discussions and expanded our understanding of this complex field. Ladies and gentlemen, lastly, I'd like to thank the organizing committee for their support in making this seminar possible. Through collaborative efforts like this, we can continue to advance and improve our civil service compensation and benefit strategies. I apologize for any inconvenience that may have occurred during the seminar. Please remind everyone to uphold the commitment and spirit of ACCSM plus 3 in our heart. It is essential to recognize that the well-being of our people relies on our collective efforts in managing our civil services. We are encouraged to actively engage in achieving the goals of the ACCSM plus 3 by exchanging ideas, fostering innovation, and implementing best practices. Together, we can significantly contribute towards ensuring a prosperous and sustainable future for our human resources. Thank you all for your dedication and commitment to public service. I hope you leave here inspired and equipped to make a positive impact in your respective organizations. Let's continue working together to enhance our civil services effectiveness and efficiency, benefiting our employees and the citizens we serve. May we always receive the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty God, in our endeavors, family lives, and the people of ASEAN plus 3. I announce that the seminar on managing civil service compensation and benefit strategy is officially closed. Alhamdulillah, thank you very much. ASEAN Matters, epicentrum of growth. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the sharing and discussion sessions is now concluded. Allow me to extend our most sincere gratitude toward distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for attending this seminar. I wish you good health, happiness, and success. Allow me, Eka Situmorang, your host for today, signing off. Thank you and see you when I see you again.